the people that they have to cater to also. I really don't. I'm just doing the thing that's right. I'm just saying it like it is. And we have a situation, I think, that is going to be very beneficial. And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And that supersedes everything else.
Oh, guys, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen or smashing that like button, depending on how you're watching. Appreciate the support.
Personally the one that's making these negotiations? Are you personally the one that's making these negotiations move forward? Is it
I have people representing me, but I'm the one that makes the decision.
Sir, in the Strait, there have been reports that the Pentagon's preparing for military action in Cuba. Are those reports true? Is Cuba next?
Possible.
Well, it depends on what your definition of military action is.
Would it look like Venezuela or Iran?
It does. It depends on what your definition of military action is, as Bill Clinton would say. You understand that? No, a lot of people don't understand that.
Your 9 a.m. event tomorrow. Your 9 a.m. event tomorrow? What are you planning to announce?
We have something tomorrow. It's a little bit of a surprise. I think it's a very positive thing. Something I feel.
You know, when it comes to Cuba, though, we have been kind of tightening the pressure on them by pretty much not allowing any oil to get to them. We pretty much put a blockade around them so they can't get energy. They're going through an energy crisis. They have constant blackouts. It's a mess out there in Cuba right now. And us moving in to remove the leader seems about right since the state isn't, well, since the country is in such a weakened state.
Strongly about somebody's coming to the White House is very good, very smart, very caring, a person that cares a lot about the country and beyond. And so we're going to have a news conference tomorrow, a little unusual. Saturday morning.
About Iran?
Yeah, exactly. No, well, it will be. Ultimately, everything's about Iran, I guess. It all morphs into Iran. You're going to be asking questions. But the Iran thing is just going well. Tomorrow is unrelated, but it'll be a form of a news conference. And I think it's going to be something very good for our country.
Do you feel like something at the White House when this all does end, when you are able?
We'll have a party. It would be great. Hey, we've been pushed around by Iran for 47 years, but not anymore.
So when you say that Iran has agreed to turn over their nuclear dust, what does that mean? Are they destroying their nuclear material? They're turning it over. Can you walk us through?
All right, now let's get into this little Axios article that's pretty much explaining what's being proposed here. So, pretty much scoop. U.S. considers $20 billion cash for uranium deal with Iran. So the U.S. and Iran are negotiating over a 3-page plan to end the war, with one element under discussion being that the U.S. would release $20 billion in frozen Iranian assets. I mean, man, probably more than Obama. But I don't care. You know, as long as we get this war over with, you know, funds in return for Iran giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium, according to 2 U.S. officials and 2 additional sources briefed on the talks. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. And this does look like a good leeway to get their enrichment under control or their uranium under control. Now, sadly, the Strait of Hormuz is closed right now, though, so I'm not really sure how far these talks are actually going since they're closing the strait again due to the fact that U.S. aren't backing off the ports or Iranian ports. So we'll see how that goes further down the line. But all right, let's go ahead and get back to our guy, Trump. I just want to show you guys the article and all that good stuff. Make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Appreciate the support. Oh, let me go and switch over real quick.
Yeah.
Destroying their nuclear material? They're turning it over. Can you walk us through what that process looks like, sir?
We're taking it. Very simple. We're taking it. Yeah. With Iran. We're going in with Iran.
Does that mean U.S. boots on the ground to get that?
I don't call it boots on the ground. We'll take it after the agreement is signed. There's a big difference before and after. BC. It's before and after.
Sir, in the Strait, are there going to be restrictions?
And after the agreement is signed, it's a lot different than before. We would have taken it. If we didn't have an agreement, we would take it, but I don't think we'll have to.
Sir, in the Strait, are there going to be restrictions and tolls managed by Iran for ships and vessels passing through?
No way.
None at all?
Nope.
No restrictions?
You
talked about FISA, Mr. President.
Well,
restrictions, yeah, there'll be restrictions.
The only restriction I honestly saw first when Iran said they're opening the Strait of Hormuz, they said it was going to be like a coordinated route led by Iran. So pretty much a route that we know they didn't, mine or anything like that. So that's the only like type of control that I've seen Iran had over the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is, like I said, closed right now because let's see here. Yes, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz again over continued U.S. blockage of its ports, state media says. On Saturday, April 18th, which is today, guys, Iran's joint military command announced it had resumed strict management of the Strait of Hormuz, reversing a brief reopening and requiring Iranian authorization for all vessel passage. Again, guys. Tough. But let's make sure we double tap that screen, like the video, guys.
You can't do the tolls. No, they're not going to be tolls.
On FISA, Mr. President, Anna Paula Luna is pushing to have the Save America Act linked to FISA in the FISA renewal.
Well,
Are you in
she's
favor?
right, and I'd love to see that. The Save America Act is so important. It's so good. It's voter ID. It's, you know, basic. It's your basics about a democracy. Voter ID, birthplace. You have to be born in the United States to vote. We have no transgender. We added no transgender utilization of our children.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem about that, guys. We thought we got that, but not really. What we really got was, oh, well, you can't trans kids unless their parents say so. So yes, they're crazy, lunatic, liberal parents that want to indulge their kids' delusion will still be able to trans their kid. It's like there was really no ground gained, to be quite honest with you guys. No ground gained on that.
Very important. No men in women's sports. Now, we added that. Also, we talk about the top three. And we put as the three, you know, three having to do with the vote. We also have no mail-in ballots other than for the military, etc. If you're sick, the military. If you're away, if you're disabled, any of those things. It's pretty generous, actually, but mail-in ballot, the tremendous cheating that goes on with mail-in ballots. So we would have no mail-in ballots except for those various exceptions.
President, did the ceasefire in Lebanon need to happen for you to get to a deal with Iran?
It's not really tied, but you can.
Yes, it is. Come on now. Remember, when Iran opened the Strait of Hormuz last time and then closed it back down within an hour, it was because of Israel's attack in Lebanon and them saying that, yo, we set our allies in the ceasefire. That includes Hezbollah in Lebanon. That includes the Houthis in Yemen. That includes Hamas in Gaza. Like, those are their allies. So, yeah, when we attacked them, that pretty much violated the ceasefire within an hour. I mean, thanks to Israel. So, actually, yes, in order to get this ceasefire, in order to get the Strait of Hormuz open, there have to be a ceasefire established between Lebanon and Israel. Have to be.
You say maybe psychologically tied, but we're going to help Lebanon become a country again. You know, it's been a long time for them. They've gone through a lot, and we're going to help them be a country again.
And then, were you frustrated with Netanyahu while you were negotiating the ceasefire in the last round? Was his action bombing Lebanon, did that impact peace talks?
We disagree on some things, but he's been a very good partner. We did a good job. There's probably never been anything like it. He says we were the senior, and we are the senior. We're the senior. We have the greatest military in the world. I built it in the first term. Didn't think I'd be using it this much, but we have the greatest military in the world, greatest equipment, greatest. When you look at it, we had 101 to 111, depending on your definition, because some were two. They came out in twos. Missiles shot at a certain very valuable asset of ours that happened to be sitting on the water. Every single one of those missiles was shot down. Think of it, 111 missiles. Every single one of them was shot down. Never even got close. And nobody has a military like this. Nobody has equipment like this. Nobody has the power that we have.
So you said that the U.S. was going to take the nuclear dust from Iran.
Yeah, we didn't
What's
make
the
a deal.
time? What's the timeline on that? How long will that
Do you want me
take?
to give you the time and date?
Well, like I said, according to a lot of articles, but even Axios is saying that, yeah, they're pretty much waiting on is to see if Iran can get $20 billion in frozen Iranian funds. So, like I said, not us giving them $20 billion, but, you know, the funds that we have froze up from the constant sanctions that we put on them. And if we give that back to them, then they'll go ahead and give us the enrichment to either, I don't know, blend down or just to confiscate outright. But we'll see.
Everything
Is
else.
it like you've been negotiated
If we
how long that
obviously, I'm not
process
going
will
to give
go
you the
on?
time, other than if we sign the agreement, then I can give you time somewhere after the signing of the agreement.
And
We'll
will
go
it
in
involve
with
the
the
US
RAND.
military?
We'll go in with the RAND, and we will take it together, and we will bring it back, 100% of it, back to the United States. If we don't do that, we will get it in a different form, in a much more unfriendly form.
And that's
But in any event,
that
we'll get it.
unfriendly
But in
form, would
any
that
event,
involve war?
excuse me. But in any event, we'll get it. Go ahead.
If you don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire or will
I
you
don't
start
know.
at
Maybe not.
attacks again?
Maybe I won't extend it,
Okay.
but the blockade is going to remain.
Do you have an
But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade.
And you see that blockade right there is why the Strait of Hormuz is closed again, because of that blockade. Because the U.S. is still blockading Iranian ports, and they're just like, well, yo, if you're not doing that, and the strait isn't all the way open, we're just going to close our side as well then. And that's exactly what they've done. Pretty much shown that they still have cards, and they pull one of their cards, which is being able to close or manage the Strait of Hormuz. Tough, but that's just the reality right now.
And unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I think it's going to happen.
What about the UFOs, Mr. President?
UFOs. But what about the UFOs, President? Come on now. But all right, though, let's get into what we thought was going to be good news. This is what we thought was going to be good news, guys, because the Strait of Hormuz is actually closed right now again.
The Iranian foreign minister on X says that the Strait of Hormuz is open for all commercial vessels. We're just learning this right now. Let me read where we are getting this from X. The foreign minister saying, in line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of the ceasefire on coordinated routes as already announced by ports and maritime organizations of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But this is a huge announcement.
And like I said, guys, it's kind of tough because this doesn't really matter, because The Hill says that Iran says Strait of Hormuz will close again amid U.S. blockage. So U.S. blockade. That was 12 hours ago. 38 minutes ago, Middle East crisis live. Iran said it has closed the Strait of Hormuz again. And this is from The Guardian. Go ahead and take you right to the article here. Let me main screen it for you guys who's watching on the vertical. But this is what we're dealing with here. Like just 2 hours ago, we're pretty much dealing with the same problem. All because, well, I guess we just want to play that tough guy position and we just don't want to give up on it. We're just pretty much saying, look, F what y'all talking about. But like I said, the Hill, CNBC, pretty much, damn video shows, ship turning away from the Strait of Hormuz. Yep. It's all back on. 10 minutes ago, Al Jazeera, CNN, live updates. Iran says Strait of Hormuz restrictions reimposed. Let's make sure we get into this article real quick. Oh, God, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, man, because who else on these vertical lives is going through the articles with you as they're coming out? Like, come on now. Like the video and show your boy some appreciation. Well, let's see here. Here's the latest. Strait of Hormuz. Iran's military said restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz are being reimposed. Alleged repeated breach of trust by the U.S. The Speaker of Iran's parliament had said that the Strait would close again if the U.S. did not lift its naval blockade, which we did not. So, yes, this is why we're right back where we're at. And like I said, this is all updated news. This is coming out within 10 minutes. I told you at the beginning of the show, so... All right, that's pretty much the fact of the matter now, and that's why this little segment on CNN of it being open no longer matters. I know, right? But all right, let's go ahead and get over to this real quick. Let's go over and get into this Cash Patel, because this was actually kind of wild. And now Cash Patel is about to sue these guys of the Atlantic over this story. So let's get into it. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure we can find more updates on this updating, event or this update on the Strait of Hormuz, and let's see what's going on with that, because like I said, as of now, it is closed again.
Okay, so I don't know. I feel like things always happen on a Friday. Big stories break on a Friday. And as I just mentioned with Chris, but in case you haven't seen it, there is some breaking news. This absolutely bonkers story that just posted tonight concerning, well, the clown car of people who make up Trump's cabinet. And I mean, this time it's really focused on FBI Director Cash Patel. And it's an explosive news story in The Atlantic that just posted. It cites dozens of FBI sources, which is a big deal. It's a lot of sources in this story detailing new allegations about Patel, including some sources who say Patel is frequently drunk on the job, regularly absent from work, and paranoid about getting fired. And there's quite an anecdote about that we're going to talk about. And I'm just going to read you a few of the key passages because I think that will tell you everything you need to know about this story. Here's one. Several officials told The Atlantic that Patel's drinking has been a recurring source of concern across the government. Early in his tenure, meetings and briefings had to be rescheduled for later in the day as a result of his alcohol-fueled nights. 6 current and former officials and others familiar with Patel's schedule told The Atlantic. As a sidebar, not normal. I've worked in 2 administrations. Again, back to the quote. On multiple occasions in the past year, members of his security detail had difficulty waking Patel because he was seemingly intoxicated. This was Chris was just referencing. And that's according to information supplied to Justice Department and White House officials. A request for breaching equipment, normally used by SWAT and hostage rescue teams to quickly gain entry into buildings, was made last year because Patel had been unreachable behind locked doors, according to multiple people familiar with the request. Multiple officials also tell The Atlantic that Patel is deeply concerned that his job is in jeopardy. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah.
In one incident earlier this month, Patel struggled to lock.
Like, apparently in the Atlantic article, bro was in complete panic. Like, he couldn't get it. I guess he forgot his code or his credential code or whatever they give him to let him in the office. And he thought he was locked out. He thought he was fired. He started panicking and calling people like, yo, am I fired? The administration finally fired me. Like, damn. And, you know, this story comes out. When this stories like this come out, it's like, okay, so you kind of know you've been effing up all over the place. You kind of know the administration is kind of sick of you. You kind of know that there's public scrutiny against you on both sides, like both on the Republican and Democrat. So it makes sense on that aspect of it. But you know, current update, Cash Patel is about to try to sue the Atlantic for this story.
Into an internal computer system, he quickly became convinced that he had been locked out and he panicked, frantically calling aides and allies to announce that he had been fired by the White House, according to 9 people familiar with his outreach. 9 people. Now, the access problem turned out to, quote, have been a technical error, and it was quickly resolved. And that's according to 2 people familiar with the matter. Now, I should note MS Now has not independently verified any of this reporting. We've reached out to the FBI for comment. And if we get a response over the next hour, I will surely let you know as soon as we get a response. But I should note the FBI responded to The Atlantic with a graceful and eloquent statement attributed to Patel. And here's what he said. Print it, all false. I'll see you in court. Bring your checkbook. Graceful, eloquent. Okay. Joining me now is the reporter who broke that story, staff writer for The Atlantic, Sarah Fitzpatrick. First of all, Sarah, I'm so grateful you could be here because we saw this story and we reached out and we were like, can you come talk to us about it? And here you are. I want to talk to you about all the details of this bombshell report. I just skimmed the story, the service there, I should say. But first, I just want to give you an opportunity to respond to.
You know, I kind of want to give you the across the board perspective on this. So let's see here. Let's get over to what they're honestly saying about Cash. Because what was it? We got Newsweek, Cash Patel issues defiant response to the new erratic behavior allegations, the Daily Beast. What was it? Keystone Cash Patel attorney outs even more devastating claims in the Independent. We got Cash Patel paranoid about firing and alarm staffs with alcohol use reports claim. And this is coming from inside the FBI, guys. So it's just like, no, it's not Axios saying, I'm sorry, but it's not MSN Snow or M Snow or MS Now saying this. It's not them, guys. This is FBI employees pretty much sending in their complaints to the media. Could this be done on duplicitous reasons? Of course it could. But let's be real. Like, Cash hasn't really been performing how we like him to be honest with you. But I mean, it is what it is. We'll see how this turns out, though. But like I said, hey, it ain't coming from MS Now. It's actually coming from complaints from inside the FBI. So it is what it is on that note. But all right, though, let's get to it because shout out to Fox News. They're actually the first to report on this. So shout out to them.
Okay, now to Operation.
Well, first in mainstream media to report on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, now to Operation Epic Fury. President Trump suggesting attacks on Iran will resume if a deal with Tehran isn't reached by Wednesday.
Rebecca Castor joins us now from Washington, and she has the latest. Rebecca, good morning.
Rachel, good morning. Late last night, President Trump said
Oh, guys, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate support. Any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements, you can just go ahead and super chat it in. I'll be happy to read it out loud and engage with it. But all right, let's keep it going.
he received, quote, pretty good news regarding Iran. He says negotiations are going very well and that he's going to know soon whether the Iranians will make a deal by his deadline. If not, U.S. forces are ready to respond.
If you don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends, will you extend the ceasefire or will
I
you
don't
start
know. Maybe not.
attacks again?
Maybe I won't extend it.
Okay.
But the blockade is going to remain. But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately, we'll have to start dropping bombs again.
The U.S. Navy's blockade on Iranian ports seems to be pressuring the regime to agree to President Trump's red lines. Since Monday, at least 21 ships have been forced to turn around, and Iran's economy is on the brink of collapse. So yesterday, the regime announced the strait is reopened. President Trump confirming on Truth Social the Strait of Hormuz is complete.
I'm sorry, but Iran's economy been on the brink of collapse since January when we completely destroyed their currency. I'm sorry, but like they've been in the same place since January. The problem is like they don't need us. Honestly, it's kind of crazy how this works out for them. But due to them being a self-reliant country, they don't need a stable economy to continuously carry out like warfare. They don't. Like they make everything in-house.
Completely open and ready for business, but he's not ready to send the U.S. Navy home just yet.
Iran has just announced that the Strait of Hormuz is fully open and ready for business and full passage. But the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete and fully signed.
Because of this, Iran's military is now trying to reassert control of the strait until America allows full freedom of navigation for vessels traveling to and from Iran. So that's going to be something to watch today, especially since President Trump also told several reporters yesterday that Iran had agreed to everything, including suspending its nuclear program, turning over its enriched uranium, and ending its funding for Hamas and Hezbollah.
Okay,
Charlie,
hold
Rachel,
on now.
back to you.
Hold on now, lady. They did not say that. Where did you get that at? Hold on now. That's a lie, actually. They did not agree to stop funding their proxies. As much as I wish they would agree to that, they did not agree to stop funding their proxies. What they agreed to was giving up their enriched uranium for basically their frozen assets. It's kind of funny how Fox News is painting it as if, oh, no, they're just completely capitulating. No, we're giving them something for this. We're not just getting it for free because we were just bombing them to hell for weeks. No, we're not getting these capitulations because we bombed them to hell. We're getting these capitulations because we're giving something to, or we're promising to give something to.
All right, Rebecca Castor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So there are some conflicting signals because we are seeing reports that ships may be turning around because the Iranians are sending messages suggesting to these ships that the strait is not actually open. And if they are meddling with something that they have agreed to, as President Trump has been talking about, they had better be very careful in understanding who they're trying to play.
And President Trump says that he had gotten calls from members of NATO, and he said, "I'm sorry, this is a little too late, a little too little, too late." Listen to this.
And now that the Hormuz Strait situation is almost over, I received a call from NATO asking.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's not over, guys.
Hormuz again. In the last hour, Iran has announced that it's closing the Strait of Hormuz again, less than 24 hours after declaring the waterway open. It says the United States must lift its blockade of Iranian ports before marine traffic can flow freely.
So, what does this conclude? That every time we try to swing our well, we try to swing our D around, we end up looking like idiots. Because what we do, we pretty much say, oh yeah, you got to open the Strait, Iran, but we're going to continue our blockade in our ports. And Iran's like, no, you're not. And U.S. like, oh yes, we are. And this is how it's going to go. So Iran's like, all right, bet we'll just close the Strait of Hormuz again. And what are we doing? Nothing. We're right back in the same position. Because I guess we're being stubborn about the blockade. And I mean, okay, but if the goal is to get the Strait of Hormuz open, they was willing to open the Strait of Hormuz just to get that ceasefire with Lebanon, then why not just remove the blockade? And if you knew they were going to close it, because they warned us, they said, look, the continuous naval closure of the Strait from the U.S. is going to make us reimpose restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz. And what do? We test their gangster again. And well, here we are. Hormuz closed again.
The tensions placed a chokehold on the global economy, heavily restricting the movement of energy supplies worldwide. Iran says that from now on, only vessels with Revolutionary Guard approval will be allowed through the strait. On Friday, U.S. President Donald Trump insisted that the U.S. blockade on Iranian ships and ports would remain in place until a peace deal is reached. Iran's new restrictions come after a convoy of tankers was seen leaving the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. It was the first major movement in the waterway in 7 weeks. We're live this hour with our correspondent Tawhid Asadi in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Tawhid.
Oh, guys, you got any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements? You can go ahead and super chat that in for $2 and up, or you can go ahead and send a Venmo or anything like that. Appreciate the support, guys. But let's make sure we're double tapping that screen. That's how we get more people in the more people to come into the live and push the channel. So let's make sure we're double tapping that screen and liking the video.
Iran putting out a statement now saying that the Strait has reverted to its previous state. What exactly does that mean?
Well, obviously, it's a very intricate situation, and we hear mixed messages from the Iranian side, seeing the developments on the ground, and it is impacted by actually the continuation of the blockade by the Americans, which is putting a certain amount of pressure. Latest, we received a statement from the Khatam al-Anbiya Joint Military Headquarters, a very strong message, and it says, the Islamic Republic of Iran, following previous agreements made in negotiations conducted in good faith, has agreed to the managed passage of a limited number of oil and commercial ships through the Strait of Hormuz. Unfortunately, the Americans, with their repeated breaches of trust that are part of their history, continue their act of piracy and maritime theft under the pretext of so-called sanctions. For this reason,
I'm sorry, but that's real rich coming from the guys who closed it first. That is hilarious. I mean, sure, they had the argument about, oh, well, it's Iranian and Oman, it's Iran and Omar waters. But I mean, come on now, y'all closed it first. We're just matching y'all energy at that point, which I kind of wish we'd reach which I wish we'd go through more diplomatic means to get the Strait of Hormuz open, which we're trying. We are. But the problem is we just don't seem to keep up our side of the deal. Which was apparently, look, Iran said, look, we'll release our restriction on the Strait of Hormuz. You release your naval blockade and everybody's happy. Apparently, Iran committed to their side, but the U.S. did not. And then Trump comes out and doubles down and says, yeah, and we won't. So look where we're at. I told you, we be feigning diplomacy like I don't understand it. Like we really do be feigning diplomacy. We pretend to have actual real talks with these guys. Then we backtrack on what we say we're going to do. And then we play like the victim, like they're the ones who broke the agreement. It's wild.
Control over the Strait of Hormuz has reverted to its previous state, and this strategic waterway is under strict management and control by armed forces. It is stated that as long as the United States does not end complete freedom of movement for vessels from Iran to their destinations and back, the situation in the Strait of Hormuz will remain under strict control and will remain as it was before. This is a message that we heard from this military important sphere of the country, indicative of Iran's latest position when it comes to this geostrategically significant choke point. But we know all in all that we are dealing with an intricate situation in which there are different actors and factors at work. Speaking of Strait of Hormuz, we know that Iran is trying to use it as a point of leverage, as a point of pressure when it comes to to actually the negotiations potentially ahead between Tehran and Washington. Also, previously we heard from Tehran that it's going to be open for commercial vessels. We've got this military officials talking to the state TV saying that it's not open for any military passage. Also, from the statement that we hear from Iran, it seems Tehran is planning to conduct a sort of new mechanism, a new regime of management over Strait of Hormuz. And on that, we have already heard about the plans to impose tariffs, the fees for actually ships trying to transit through the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, it's going to put a certain amount of impact when it comes to global economy and when it comes to actually the energy market in particular. And obviously, there are other issues in that regard. First, we know that Abbas Araghchi, foreign minister of the country, previously said that this opening, however limited it is going to be confined to actually the period of ceasefire. And on that, we know that based on the previous agreement, we have about 4 days to finishing of the ceasefire. All in all, we have to keep waiting in this very intricate situation. The U.S. blockade continues. Iran is talking about further strict security measures, military actions over the Strait of Hormuz. They're saying that any passage should be with the green light of the IRGC Navy force. And this is the indicative of the very fact that the name of the game at this point, when it comes to Strait of Hormuz and when it comes to the entirety of the situation between Iran and the United States, is nothing but uncertainty.
All right. Let's go to more international news. Let's see what BBC's talking about. Because, like I said, very few is reporting on this since it literally just came out within the hour.
Hello and welcome. I'm Samantha Simmons. Confused messaging today on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's military is now saying it will close the vital waterway again after the authorities in Iran said on Friday it would be completely reopened to commercial ships for the remainder of the ceasefire. Well, Iran's parliament speaker had said it would shut again if the US blockade on Iran ports continued. US President Donald Trump had imposed the blockade earlier this week. And despite Iran saying it would reopen the strait, Mr. Trump said the blockade would continue until a peace deal is reached.
See?
Well, the Strait of Hormuz...
Like I said, it was us trying to have our cake and eat it, too. It's like, no, we said we were going to open the strait. You released the blockade. Trump was like, no, I released the blockade when a peace deal is reached. And he's like, all right, bro, we'll just go back to closing it since you want to play games. That's pretty much what we're doing here. Like I said, and I get what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to show power, we have this situation completely under control. They're eating out of our hands. But every time we try to play that card on Iran, they end up embarrassing us on the global stage. So Trump, chill.
It's a crucial route for global shipping, and there had been reports that around 20 ships, including oil tankers and container vessels, had started to sail. Reports now say they've been ordered to turn around. Well, let's speak to our correspondent, Nick Beek, in Jerusalem, who's following all the developments for us. Nick, try if you can to make sense of all of this for us.
Yeah, hi again, Samantha. I think what we've got to go on at the moment is this report that's coming from Iranian state media saying that the Strait...
Oh, guys, let's get those likes up, man. We got about a little bit over 300 in here. Appreciate the support, by the way. But let's make sure we are double tapping that screen, liking the video, guys. Let's get the likes up on here. Let's try to get to 100 likes. We only got 26. So let's make sure we are double tapping that screen and liking the video, guys. Appreciate the support.
Strait of Hormuz will be closed once again, if not completely closed, returning to what they're describing as strict management. So this is what we saw before this arrangement was reached yesterday, whereby the majority of vessels were not able to pass unless maybe they were paying some sort of toll or they were getting the explicit permission of the Iranians to do so. Why is Iran saying this now? As you say, there was confusion this morning. They were suggesting that the strait was open. What the Iranians are saying is that the Americans have failed to fulfill their obligations. They haven't been more explicit about this. But certainly, if we look at what happened yesterday, there was this great fanfare as the strait was announced as being reopening. President Trump saying it would be a complete reopening. But at the same time, the Americans said that they would keep up this blockade of ships, any sort of vessel heading to an Iranian port. So what it seems now is the Iranians say that the Americans have not kept their side of the deal. And so as a consequence, the Strait, to all intents and purposes, will be closed once again.
Nick, in the past a short while, Pakistan's Prime Minister has said that he's completed a 3-country diplomatic tour aimed at Iran peace statement. That's coming in on the AFP news agency. Of course, Pakistan hosted those talks last weekend between the US and Iran. So 1 week on, and with this ceasefire running out in days, where are we at diplomatically?
I was like back at
Hard
square
to tell,
one.
Samantha. Certainly President Trump is suggesting that we're...
Well, I'll tell you, we're right back at square one with Iran assuming control of the Strait of Hormuz again. I mean, basically the ceasefire in Lebanon's for naught. So Israel's probably about to pop off on Lebanon, further deteriorating the ceasefire agreement. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully it goes in the right direction. And, you know, Trump just, I mean, I doubt it, but he just concedes and he's like, all right, look, we'll remove the naval blockage, just open up the strait. But if not, and he doubles down, then Israel's just going to take it upon himself to strike Lebanon again and just go ahead and ball up and throw away the ceasefire at that point. Whoops. But back to
We're on the brink of some sort of deal. He said repeatedly that the Iranians have basically agreed to a lot of what the Americans want, whether that's their enriched uranium supplies, the idea of the Iranians giving them up and potentially not doing anything more in terms of a nuclear program for a number of years to come. The Iranians have denied this publicly. So, I mean, it's really hard to see if any sort of behind the scenes agreement has been reached or if there's been progress towards one which would justify both teams coming back to Pakistan, for example, and having a second round of talks. We know there was a marathon negotiation last weekend. It didn't amount to anything. So certainly it's not good news if the Strait of Hormuz is being shut, because this is something which has been so crucial to this whole conflict and has sent out reverberations around the world with so much oil normally passing through. So it could be the case that there is a lot of bravado, there's a lot of social media noise, and we hear that talks will take place. But at the moment, I think no one has any real confidence that things are going in the right direction. One thing I should say is that this ceasefire in Lebanon between the Israelis and Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed group in Lebanon, is holding for now. And I think that is certainly sort of easing some of the pressure here. But let's see what is done with that window of opportunity.
Yeah, and we'll get more on the situation in Lebanon coming up very shortly. But to what extent there in Israel do you think that Prime Minister Netanyahu believes he's achieved his goals?
I mean, bro, none at all. This man Netanyahu wants to annex southern Lebanon. If he doesn't get that, he doesn't really feel like he achieved anything. If he doesn't get regime change in Iran, he really doesn't feel like he achieved anything. So honestly, he's not really getting anything. I mean, I'm actually happy about that. We're stopping him from annexing Lebanon, and he's not getting regime change in Iran because, well, shoot, we're not trying to get regime change in Iran. Or else we'd have put boots on the ground a week ago.
Well, I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been changing his position in some respects. He said right at the outset of the Iran war, when the Americans joined the Israelis in those strikes on Tehran and other parts of Iran, he said really there were three key aims there. They wanted to destroy Iran's nuclear capability, its ambitions for a nuclear program, and of course, any sort of route towards getting a nuclear weapon. He said he wanted to remove the ballistic threat that Iran faced. And now those are two key war aims that his opponents here say they simply haven't been realized. And the suggestion was that he wanted the war to continue. So what we had just a couple of days ago was that a ceasefire being announced by President Trump. And a lot of people here in Israel saying that what's happening here is that President Trump had decided belatedly that there needed to be a ceasefire so that he...
Hey, yo, shout out to my man Josh. He sent a clapping seal for $2.50. Appreciate the support, my man, because for every 100 joules, that is $1. So that's, hey, $2.50. Appreciate the support, my man.
His wider talks with Iran could continue and potentially prosper. So in terms of the public mood in Israel, a lot of people quite surprised by this ceasefire, seeing that President Trump is in the driving seat. That's the analysis. And also in the north of the country, a lot of people are really unhappy, talking about a betrayal because they don't think a ceasefire will bring anything for them. They worry that Hezbollah won't be disarmed, won't be disbanded, and that they'll face the threat of rockets.
Because here's a problem. Like, because of Israel's constant breaking of the ceasefire in Lebanon, the existence of Hezbollah has been vindicated. And the reason so is because, well, Israel created Hezbollah through their constant invasion of Lebanon. Well, of their aggressive invasion of Lebanon. Let's just keep it real. And because they did that, this is where Hezbollah came out of that constant invasion of, well, actually, and the annexing of southern Lebanon at that time. And Hezbollah formed to push Israel out. So I'm sorry, but now Hezbollah's existence has been vindicated because Israel keeps trying to do the same thing that Hezbollah has been fighting against since its inception.
Being fired by Hezbollah by many days, months, potentially years to come.
Okay, Nick Beek in Jerusalem for now. Thank you. Well, the Strait of Hormuz isn't, of course, the only issue stopping the US and Iran from reaching a deal. The two countries also appear to disagree over the future of Iran's enriched uranium, which Mr. Trump has said will be dug up and taken to the US. While the current ceasefire between the US and Iran still appears to be holding, it is due to run out next week, with both sides still far apart on agreeing the conditions for a lasting peace. S.E.T, our chief international correspondent, is in Tehran and reporting on condition that none of her material is used on the BBC's Persian service. These restrictions apply to all international media organisations operating inside the country. She told us there are signs the two sides are moving towards a memorandum of understanding, which would open the way for more detailed negotiations.
Iran's announcement yesterday that the Strait of Hormuz was now completely open was greeted with cautious optimism. But then it became clear that vessels still had to take routes designated and controlled by Tehran, and that it wouldn't remain open unless the U.S. lifted its own blockade. And there's also been a blizzard of contradictory statements when it comes to progress in the peace talks. The real issue is that President Trump seems to believe that a deal between Tehran and Washington, what would be a major diplomatic achievement, can be done in a matter of days. But what he describes as insignificant differences amount to what would be major concessions by Iran. And Iran's new leaders, more hardline, aren't indicating they're ready to make them. The one glimmer of hope is that there does seem to be progress behind the scenes on a memorandum of understanding. Both sides would agree to embark on a period of more detailed discussions lasting about 60 days. Even that may not be enough to reach what would be a complex, comprehensive, and controversial deal. But it may be enough just to hold this fragile ceasefire in place.
Well, I'm gonna be real with you. If we give away just a little bit, which I wouldn't mind us giving, $20 billion back to Iran to, cease their nuclear enrichment, get them back under a JCPOA. I mean, it sounds like a good use of $20 billion. That ain't coming out of my pockets or the American people's pockets. So, I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with that. And we get their enrichment, we get to blend it down, we can get them into the JCPOA, and everything's all good. I know what you're going to say, but S.E.T, the proxies, the missiles, bro, don't worry about that. That's Israel's problem. Let them worry about that. We're just worried about their nuclear enrichment, okay? Okay.
Well, President Trump says he's blocking Israel from bombing Lebanon and that enough is enough as the tentative truce between the two countries enters its second day. Israel says it reserves the right to continue targeting the armed group Hezbollah and that it won't pull its troops out of Lebanon. Just as the ceasefire came into force, the Israeli military said it had hit more than 380 Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon over a 24-hour period. One person was also killed by an Israeli drone. Well, these are live pictures from southern Lebanon, where thousands of people have started to return to their homes after 6 weeks of bombing south of the Litani River.
Thank God.
Israel's attacks across.
And here's the wild part was Israel actually Israel displaced 1 million people during their strikes on Lebanon. So I'm actually happy to hear that people are returning. Because one, Israel wanted this to keep going and they wanted to further displace people. Hey, they did over 1 million. They wanted to go for 2. But all right, let's hear from the Iranian deputy foreign minister and let's see what he got to say, because apparently he got some comments that let's see here, just came out about 59 minutes ago. All right, let's see what he got to say.
Trying to.
Oh, God, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Who else on the Vertical Live is giving you news from both sides and from around the world? So, hey, go ahead and double tap that screen, like the video, and subscribe while you're at it.
Sabotage the path of the diplomatic efforts through this diplomatic circus that they are adopting. They thought that the force and the pressure and the escalation is part of the solution. No, these cannot be for the benefit of anyone. Diplomacy must prevail. One by one, please, one by one. President Trump said that if there is no agreement on Wednesday, there will be